So welcome to the interview, or actually, as I call it, a casual talk about herbs, which we will have today with Katie Browning, who I'm visiting on a herbal mentorship here in Costa Rica. Thank you for taking my invitation, because I wasn't sure if you would be up for doing this or not. So I'm really happy you decided to.
Oh, no, really, it's my
join.
pleasure.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for
Thank
the
you.
invitation.
Yeah.
And also for the impulse and following the impulse to travel all the way here and follow your heart to the call that has brought you here.
That's what I'm trying to do. That's what actually plants teach me as well, as we actually talk about it a lot during my stay.
Exactly.
So Katie, and I definitely want to, touch on this topic a little bit later.
Sure.
So, but in the beginning, could you maybe tell people who are watching us a little bit more about yourself, like what you do? Your story is long and amazing, but at least in short, what you do, what made you start working with plants? Later on, we will also grow a little bit on this topic.
Yeah. So I'm Katie Rose. What I do is, at this point in my journey of herbalism, which has spanned about 25 years now, I would say at this juncture in my path of herbalism, what I do is help build relationships between plants and people. And that comes through in many different ways. So we have the center, which you're here at, which is also our home, and just a rustic but very beautiful slice of paradise, where I often take in students to have one-on-one curated mentorships where they can really dive in as you are into your specific interests. But also, Costa Rica calls people for a reason.
True. I already know that.
Yeah. And so the plants that are here are often calling people as well. And I also see clients. So my journey definitely has a lot to do with women and women's health. I see clients for that as well as other things. I do sound healing. I do Qigong. I also do retreats and workshops. But I really like the educational aspect, as well as helping to connect people and plants. To me, there's this sense of like matchmaking, for lack of a better way to put it. But it's also helping to be a conduit for that. And plants come into all of my offerings kind of no matter what. And so they're the ones that are guiding to help create these relationships. And so my practice I call embodying herbalism, because there is a very deep sense of that and how we embody plants into our everyday lives, but also for healing in various different realms, emotional, physical, spiritual, that we are, embodying those into our senses for support in all directions. And so a lot of my practice too will look very differently depending, and so sometimes the plant, when I'm doing sound healing, there's actually, the plants are a big part of it, through flower essences and plants being laid on the body. And and so, yeah, I guess if I were to tie it into just a few words, embodying herbalism is about that relationship between people and plants. And it's my service to help be a conduit for that.
Great, amazing. And also, my feeling, at least after spending a week with you now, is that you also help believe that you help your students believe that they can also feel plants instead of just analyzing them and thinking about them, because me taking different kind of courses, you know, it's been quite difficult to switch a little bit more to this feeling part, instead of just trying to know everything about the plant and just trying to you know, to create like formulas and everything, you know, related to working with herbs. More from this left brain,
yes,
right,
exactly.
part. So this is really that's my feeling, at least, which I got as well, and I really appreciate. And I wanted to ask you, because this is really interesting, when you told me this part of your story. Could you tell me maybe more about your inspirations? Like, where did you take your knowledge from, your experience? Where did you, you know, from which traditions did you gain it? I'm really curious. I mean, I know already some of it, but I would really like you to to tell more about it.
Thank you. Listen to us. And thank you for speaking to that too. Just it is a very, I just want to touch on that point for a moment, of really the relationship with plants that allows us to be informed through our feelings. And that's a deep part of our remembering of how to have how to dialogue with plants for healing. And that's been in all traditions, literally across the world, you know, throughout time. And it's something that we're remembering. Yes, herbalism is a science, and there is a very important depth to that. But herbalism is also an art and an intuition. And it's something that we carry in our knowing, that we are remembering. And so I just wanted to speak to that for a moment. But where I have been informed from, and kind of my inspirations over time, have been multifaceted, honestly. It's been a journey. It's been this beautiful spiral. So, I mean, I guess really for me, it begins in my childhood, because I grew up in the mountains in Colorado in the United States. But I was an only child, and I had a lot of relationship with nature. I was out in nature a lot. And I, even from a very young age, kind of had this drive to just, I mean, even in my imaginary play, like I was playing with plants. And so also the connection with nature, which has always inspired this path for me, because there's this sense of knowing from the elements and from the plants, and I feel a very close relationship to them. And that's been with me since childhood. So fast forward quite a few years, I definitely went through quite a healing journey when I was in my later teens, with a lot of women's health issues. And to the point where I was being hospitalized a lot, and I was just really not receiving help. It just kept reoccurring. And so I feel like actually a lot of people have something in their journey around this, you know, their own personal healing crisis, kind of. Well, mine happened early on, which I feel was a blessing. And it kind of helped guide me, I guess, to working with, at that time, what was really considered like alternative health practices, right? And I had some people in my life also that were really helping to invite me to work with herbs and other elements, lifestyle practices, etc. So that was a big turning point for me. Then I got inspired to actually take that and be educated in herbalism. And that brought me actually back to Colorado, because at the time I wasn't living there. And I'm not going to go on too much of a timeline, but like there was a lot of my journey that was about really learning, I guess, more of the science of herbalism, right? And the clinical practices, which I very much have a lot of deep respect for, and it was a foundation for me. And I have a lot of gratitude for that. And I also have a lot of gratitude that the school that I went to had many different teachers and had many different perspectives. And I feel like that's been an inspiration throughout my journey for me, is that I have had the deep honor of working with many different people, many different herbalists, many different traditions. To name a few, like I even really delved into my own ancestry for a while and was inspired a lot by Druidic tradition. I studied with a Mayan healer, and also disciples of hers that also really helped work through a lot of my own healing process with me. I have a Native American teacher. I did a long-term apprenticeship with a woman that I know from my herb school, and there was deep like nature practices, but also that's where I was inspired to start my work with flower essences as well.
Oh, that was the beginning.
Though it was also a part of like my own healing journey. And so that has been an inspiration throughout, because even beyond like my physical healing journey, of course, there are many layers to our healing journey. So it was associated a lot with kind of deep emotional patterns from my childhood too. And when I started working with flower essences, whole new worlds opened up in realizing the layers of healing. And that has been a very deep inspiration for me too, over time through different traditions, but also really working with flower essences. And now that I work with clients again, of really recognizing that we have to be tending to all bodies in our healing journey.
That was my next question. So
yeah.
So if you can say a little bit more about it, like what bodies do you mean?
Right, exactly.
Because many also clients of mine who come right now with their dogs, but I hopefully will start working more with people as well. They focus so much, first of all, on the problem, second of all, on the physical problem, thinking that there are just some herbs which will magically heal this particular physical problem, and not even knowing that very often, like what's underneath the surface, there's another deeper root of this physical problem, right?
Exactly.
So if you could like tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you.
These layers.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I think it actually took me a long time to understand this myself, even working with clients. Because for me, yes, there was always the sense of like getting to the root of something. And in my training, there was always like, okay, well, we have to see what foods we're eating, right? That's a very important element and can be a root issue. But we're still kind of in the physical body with that, still, right?
Yeah.
Lifestyle types of things. We're starting to touch on maybe how stressors are affecting our emotions, etc., but really still kind of working more on the physical. And it wasn't until I really started seeing in a lot of clientele, especially I was speaking to you how I used to work in an apothecary, and we saw many different clients, hundreds of clients really a day, and I was really able to start seeing that in certain situations, right, that there's also kind of emotional patterning. So the bodies that I'm talking about, physical body, emotional body, mental body, and then however you want to see it, but energetic or spiritual body. So that part for me, I really actually work a lot with now. But like we were talking at one point, like it doesn't really have anything to do with even like spiritual belief systems, right?
Yeah, true.
It's more just how we relate to energy, really. And so, yeah, there is an importance in the healing process for tending to and supporting all, because we're not a machine, right?
Yep.
And so all of our systems are working together, as well as all of our bodies are working together. So our emotions have a lot to do with what may come up physically. The way that we're mentally processing something is going to show up physically, and vice versa. And even in some traditions that I was trained in, like the Mayan tradition, for instance, they really believe that you literally a dis-ease in the body will come through the energetic, let's just call it, then through the emotional, then through the mental, and into the physical. And there has to be the same pathway of healing that back out, right? And so you will even see certain patterns in people's emotions that will always, for instance, go to a certain place in their body or their nervous system, a certain system, right? So for me, working with clients now, it's really important to, again, tend to all these bodies. In not just with the plants, though definitely with the plants. Of course. In different ways, though. You know, sometimes we need to be working with, we were even talking about today, like maybe we need to be working with a formula that is a tincture formula and getting very specific and a physical issue. But then we also want to support it maybe with an essence that's working on the deeper layers of why that specific issue is there. Yes. Right?
Or keeps repeating. Right?
It keeps repeating.
Yeah. Back.
Exactly. And so, you know, it's one thing that you could work on something over and over and over again, right? In repetition, and you're not seeing it shift or change or heal or come back into homeostasis. Because ultimately, all of ourselves want to be in homeostasis. That is the, you know, the goal of our systems, right? But we will continue to see a pattern playing out if we're not getting to the layer that it's coming from. And so, yeah, and to me, there is a very, at this point in time, I just see it so clearly that it's important to, again, tend to and work with all of those layers.
All of those layers, yeah.
And then you really see the results, you know, and you can fix something, you know, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And it might even be okay for a while.
Yes.
But oftentimes, 90% of the time, it's going to show back up again unless you've gotten to some of those root patterns or root layers.
Yeah.
And then also one last thing is just remembering that we are multi-layered, multi-dimensional beings, really.
Exactly.
And so there's always going to be a process. You know, we're ever unfolding. There's not kind of this timeline of like, okay, this, and then you're fixed and you're done.
Yes. That's the way of thinking of like the Western people, right?
Right.
Like Western population, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's kind of this ever unfolding, which the plants support in a very big way.
Yeah.
And I know we don't have to get into it, but it really is just amazing to me, and I see it so clearly now that, like, as we gain relationship with plants too, as people who work with them, how they can support us in all of these layers, even as they are co-evolving with us, you know?
True.
And so it's, it's just really special.
Yeah, so that's, you just reminded me when you mentioned about it by the river, remember the place, that we rely so much on what is already proven and, you know, discovered about certain plants, medicinal plants, forgetting or not knowing that, as you said, they keep evolving together, like along with us, right? So it doesn't mean that whatever has been already proven, it will stay this way forever, or that it's not possible for some other qualities to reveal. This is like I got really inspired by that. And because honestly, very often I meet, as I told you as well, many people who have a lot of experience, like right, like a lot of years of working with herbs, but more in a scientific way, and not really practically, but more, you know, by learning about them, taking different courses, working in the lab, you know, discovering like what constituents they consist of, but not really being in this personal relationship with the plants.
Yeah.
And I must say, you know, because I love gathering knowledge from different people in different directions.
Yeah.
So like I've noticed at some point, that's why I was so shocked, because at some point I noticed a huge gap, like a gap or difference in perception of medicinal plants between those people who have a lot of knowledge, but it's all only solely scientific and theoretic. Theoretic.
Yeah.
And herbalists who still, you know, like rely on, of course, the modern science, but at the same time on the tradition, on the wisdom, like this ancient wisdom, as you mentioned yourself as well today. And they have a completely different energy and like even personality, I would say. Yeah, that's what I noticed. But also they're much more flexible. I noticed that these people are more humble. That I think that's the word. Of course, our queen.
Oh yeah,
had
Apple
to be on the
she had to be on the camera.
On the camera. So yeah, like how important for you is this like this folk wisdom aspect of it?
Ooh. Yeah, thank you for
asking. Because I wanted also to touch on this folk wisdom, which is, you know, like by many people very disrespected. That's my
very disrespected.
That's my feeling.
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. I guess where I want to point to is the relationship with plants. Because in folk wisdom and in a lot of traditions throughout the world that have been carried through and are being quite lost in like indigenous traditions, this is the most important part of a person's, when someone is a healer, this is the most important part. You'll see it world over. In indigenous traditions is their relationship to plants. And this is in a lot of folk wisdom too, that's been kind of passed down. And I think that to me, the highlight is about relationship. And I really do like folk wisdom because it will give us clues. It will inform us about this relationship of how people have essentially held dialogue and had this relationship with plants over time. And because it was much different then than it is in the modern world, where there is so much technology and differences in how we think about things, and now we can bring, you know, which is all vital information too. I definitely think it's very important, and yet there is something that's been lost in this relationship to the actual being of the plant. And I know for some people that may sound strange. You know, what do you mean, plant being? You know, but plants are sentient beings. They are living. They have nervous systems. They, you know, so that the wisdom that has been carried in a lot of folk traditions has a lot to inform us because of ways that people related to them in the past are different than now. And there's also stories. And I think it's something that we have also kind of forgotten in our modern ways of working with plants, is that plants carry stories, and those relationships have stories too of how they are used and how they're worked with. Because something that's coming up actually, which is slightly off topic but not really, is that plants work with us. Plants have healing benefits for us, not just by ingesting them. It's so far beyond that, right? I mean, you can look at a beautiful flower right around you, and through its color, through its form, all of these you know, sensations that you're receiving from them, from even their color and form, have healing benefits for you, right? And so remembering that there's different ways that we are receiving the healing benefits from plants that's way beyond just taking a tincture, you know? And it's in a lot of folk traditions too, of how bathing with plants, how brushing plants across your body, working with the different elements, burning plants. There's a lot of like elemental relationships. Sometimes there's astrological relationship, whether you believe in that or not. Like it's in folk wisdom in a lot of different traditions. And again, it's really about relationship, you know, and the ways that the plants are communicating with us and have healing benefits for us in multiple different ways. And I think that that is truly like maybe the missing gap that a lot of people feel in scientific herbalism. There's this kind of like missing link of relationship. And for sure, like constituents are incredible. They work, you know?
Sure, yeah.
Also, though, which is in some realms an unpopular opinion, but also when we're isolating constituents, we're taking away from all of the actual intelligence of the plant that has many other constituents that are a part of its being that are going to support all of our systems, even in the emotional realms, etc., for the dis-ease patterns that we're working with. And so,
that's also important topic to think about, because nowadays, like I think that the trend goes towards using herbs as natural medicines, but like natural medicines, like something pharmaceuticals. Oh, that's what I wanted to say, and that's actually not the whole story, not the whole picture, right? Of how we can, how beautifully we can, work with plants. So I think it's important to make people aware of that it's not working with herbs really when we just use the single constituents.
Then that's just making it an allopathic medicine. You know, and only directed towards one thing, which again, it may be very effective for that, but then we're going to have side effects. We're going to have, we're not going to be supporting the other systems that are involved. And that's the magic of the plants, is that they're supporting all of these things. There's like the intelligence in them, you know?
I agree.
So, yeah.
And the last question I have, because you also worked with horses, with people using flower essences. I would really like I would really like to ask you, what is your experience and your observations if it comes to the relationship between human and the animal, and how flower essences can be helpful in this?
Thank you for asking that. So this has been a part of my journey over time. It's not something I so much work with now, though it's coming back, which is exciting. But really, it's all about relationship again.
That's the key word.
The key word is relationship. But really, you know, animals and humans, like our connection is so vital that we have a lot of mirroring that happens with each other, right? Especially those that are in relationship with us a lot, like our pets. And so in the horse realm, actually some of the, because I did work in the equine therapy realm, and we would actually have certain exercises that people would go through in literally how you see how the horse's reaction is to something that you're going through. And this kind of proves how much of a mirror and how interconnected we really are. And so with working with flower essences, like they're really dynamic remedies, because they are helping us with these deeper patterns that we have. And it's something that's also very easily reflected with the animals that we connect with. And so, for instance, you know, a horse, a person that would have like a really nervous mind and was having insomnia problems, that was turning into even eating disorders, and like their nervous system is really upset, and a lot of mind chatter and spinning. We would see reflections in some of the exercises that we did of the horse being very irritated and upset and shaking his head. And, you know, you can even see it in their body language, right? But it goes vice versa too. Yes. Like when we're relating with our animals and things that they are dealing with that are also being reflected in us. And flower essences are such an incredible, again, remedy that can help this processing and helping to heal and tend to the layers that are happening, that we are reflecting in each other. And yeah, I also did centered riding work, because really most of my time with horses was in the riding world, but I'd been taught in this principles essentially called centered riding. And a lot of that has to do with energy and awareness, and these certain techniques. And I think what that also helped me see over time is kind of what we've been talking about, which is like how much our energy, how much what we're going through, even how we're breathing, affects our animal, and vice versa. Yes. You know? And so there is this interrelationship that is really important. And flower essences are such an incredible way to be supported also from the plant realm, for what's brought up in these, in this interrelationship, to be able to support those things. Yes. Yeah. So in those cases, both the human and the animal can take this, maybe even the same, maybe even the same essence. Yes, like to have their own like one mixture which they take, combination which they take together. Exactly. Yeah. Amazing. And sometimes it may be different, but yeah, more often than not, it's the same, because we are in this interrelationship and reflecting with each other. Yeah, and I really hope that more and more people will notice that and not want to fix only their animals, because that's also not effective, and the same problems keep coming back anyway. So I think it's really important that people get more aware of that. Absolutely. Yeah. I really think that there is deep help really in, even if we don't see the reflections, something that our animal may be going through, how it can be supported and helped by not only the flower essence support, but us working through our processes as well. Our processes as well. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I wish the world that everyone will be able to see that this healing process in this way, especially with their animals or their children as well, right? Right, because exactly. It's basically the same. Right, yeah, 100%. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Katie, so much for all of those amazing stories and inspirations. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, you can, of course, write them underneath in the comments. And I just love to hear and talk about the whole picture of what plants really are, and not really go beyond what is already known or popular. Yes, it's really not the whole picture. That's the sentence I get in my head all the time. Yeah, and we just miss so much. So we need to be looking at the whole picture. Yes, otherwise we just get a few puzzles, thinking that that's everything I need to know about this topic, and or herbs don't help or don't work because I tried it once with some supplement or it didn't work. Herbal peel and it didn't work, right? Yeah, that's totally not the way we should look at that. So I think it's really important that these kind of conversations yeah,
the world will see and get inspired by.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you
and
so
it's
much.
really inspiring to know that you are open to this work in
I
your
am.
practice.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I think it's really going to help a
Yeah.
lot of people and animals.
And animals, yeah.
You know, and so I just, feel extremely grateful.
Thank you.
And yeah, I really am also inspired by this as my work in the horse realm comes back up.
We
you
just
know?
keep inspiring each other for this
Right, which
time.
is what it's about, right?
Exactly.
Relationship.
True.
Mhm.
Keyword. It needs to be.
Yeah. Keyword relationship.
Mentioned here as well.
Hashtag relationship.
Yes,
Right?
with everything.
Yeah.
And everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Katie.
Susanna.